Gung Hei Fat Choi. Happy New Year!
It is Chinese New Year today. Hope you have a good one. My name's Nikki Dean, born in the year of the sheep.
My name's Byron Evans, born in the year of the tiger. And, well, famous people that have been born in the year of the ox include quite a range, actually, from Adolf Hitler to Saddam Hussein, from Margaret Thatcher to Robert Redford, from Bill Cosby to Charlie Chaplin, from Meryl Streep to Kate Moss. Yeah, wow.
Eddie Murphy, Princess Diana. There's a fair few knocking around, isn't there?
That is quite a shindig I'd like to go to. But as well as celebrating on this morning's breakfast show, we've been asking you for a bit of a moan, some of your gripes when it comes to social etiquette.
Yes, we certainly have, and as it's Chinese New Year, what better time to put right those New Year's resolutions that perhaps have gone a little bit astray. And with that in mind, we sent our etiquette expert William Hanson onto the streets of Manchester to find out what mucky habits you guys have.
How rude. Everybody has bad habits, unless you're me and you're practically perfect in every way. I've come here to the streets of Manchester to find out what yours are. There's a man smoking in the street when he really ought not to be. It's a public place and he'll probably drop his cigarette end on the street. It's jolly unpleasant for all of us. And here's another lady smoking in the street. Behind us is another person smoking in the street, also listening to his iPod, which isn't a crime in itself, but he'll probably ignore everyone else on the street. What's your most bad-mannered habit?
Burping.
How rude.
Having a cigarette. I only have one a day. And I have it here.
I don't really have any.
And do you do it in public?
Yes.
Why?
Because you need to burp. Everyone needs to burp. Got a lot of gas.
Eating this pie out in the street.
That is quite rude.
I've not really got that many bad habits.
So do you think you're perfect?
I'm pretty good, yeah.
Impatience at a shopping till.
Talking over people, interrupting people while they're trying to speak to me. Over-talking.
On that occasion, I picked my nose. I shouldn't have said that on camera.
It's not particularly pleasant, is it? Do you do that in public?
I try not to.
Passing people, ignoring them totally. That's what it is.
I don't think I've got any bad manners habits.
So do you think you're perfect? Do you talk over people?
Maybe talk over people, yes.
Smoking.
Why do you think that's rude?
Because I don't think it's particularly nice for other people.
After a meal in a restaurant, I tend to burp.
Well, that's not particularly pleasant.
Sniffing.
Why do you do that?
Because I got a cold.
And do you worry about what other people think when you do that?
No, not me, but my wife does.
Scratching my toes.
Do you do that?
I've got athlete's foot, so I scratch my toes.
I hope you do.
All over the skin's all over the carpet.
I hope you don't do that in public.
No, not in public, no.
Not listening.
Why don't you do that?
Because some people are quite boring.
And belching, I think, after soup.
So, from my study of Manchester, we found that most people do have a bad habit, even if they were reluctant to share it with us. Their bad habits included eating whilst on the go, smoking in public and around others, talking over other people, and picking parts of their bodies they really ought not to. However, there is one saving grace for Manchester, and that's that most people do these in private. Thank heavens for that.
How rude. Well, we've been asking you what gets up your nose, and I'm not talking about your own fingers. So, we've had a few emails this morning. One from this person who's remained anonymous. There's a lack of litter bins in Sale Water Park and along the River Mersey, and some dog owners are hanging their poo bags at head height on bushes.
Ew.
That is minging.
Shame on you, you poo bag dangler.
Yeah.
Gross! That really is quite unpleasant. If you're a poo bag dangler, stop doing it right now. Or we'll send the boys round.
We're going to crack down on you poo bag danglers. But if you would like to comment on poo bag dangling or even any other gripes that get under your skin, then please don't hesitate to contact us. Email us breakfast@channelm.co.uk or you can text us. The number is 88821. Start your message with show, and we'll read them out. We'll even put them to our William,
yes,
we will do our darnest to make sure we put those wrongs right.
And just very quickly before we move over to Ben for the news. He posed a question a little bit earlier on. Perhaps you
he
can
did.
solve this. What is the correct... When you go to the cinema or the theatre and you've got armrests, right?
Yeah.
You're only really allowed one, aren't you? You can't take up both. Which one is technically yours, the right or the left? If you know the answer to that, please get in touch, because it has been... it's been doing our head in this morning,
It's been a topic of contention throughout this morning's breakfast show. These are the kind of highbrow subjects we think about. Speaking of which, here is Mr Bland with the latest news.
A very good morning to you. A senior police officer has been forced to resign from Greater Manchester Police after he lied about being on jury service. Detective Inspector Nav Riaz told his bosses he was off work because he was on the jury in a fraud trial, but was spotted watching a tribunal. Mr Riaz had been called for jury service, but was not needed as one of the final 12 on the panel. But instead of reporting back for duty, he took a further 8 days off work. A man charged after a police officer was run over in Bolton is due in court today. Dominic McGrath, who's 31 and from Farnworth, is charged with affray, possession of an offensive weapon, wounding and dangerous driving. Police went to the Withens pub in Brightmet after reports of a fight. The officer suffered a fractured wrist, cuts and bruises trying to stop a man from getting away in a car. The nurse Karen Reisman makes another attempt today to clear her name after being sacked. An employment tribunal will hear her claim for unfair dismissal from Manchester Mental Health and Social Care Trust after 25 years working in psychiatric services in the city. Ms Reisman, who's from Hume, was at the centre of months of strike action at Manchester's psychiatric services after losing her job nearly 18 months ago. She was accused of gross misconduct for speaking to the media about cuts and privatisation in the NHS. Meanwhile, a head teacher from Manchester who was found guilty of professional misconduct has said she won't go back to teaching. Dame Jean Else had been credited with turning around Whalley Range High School for girls. A disciplinary committee said she could teach again, but not hold a senior position. Jean Else has been speaking exclusively to the Manchester Evening News and Channel M. You can watch that interview on Channel M News from 5 o'clock this evening. The steel giant Chorus is expected to tell thousands of workers that they face redundancy today after the company suffered a slump in orders. The Indian-owned firm, which employs 24,000 workers in the UK, is thought to be planning to cut up to 3,500 jobs, with more than half of those in this country. Meanwhile, more bad news in the economy. House prices fell for the 16th month in a row during January, losing a further 1% of their value. According to the housing intelligence group HomeTrack, over the past year, the average property price has dropped by 9.4% to £158,000. A film by the Radcliffe-born director Danny Boyle has picked up yet another award. Slumdog Millionaire won the title of Best Cast in last year's Screen Actors Guild Awards. The film tells the story of an orphan in Mumbai who becomes a champion on the Indian version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. It's already won awards at both the Critics' Choice and the Golden Globes. All eyes will now be on the Oscars, where Slumdog has been nominated for 10 categories. If you've ever waited for a train that never turned up, you're not the only one. It's emerged more than 62,000 rail services were cancelled across the country last year. Virgin Trains was one of the worst affected companies, losing 1.7% of its services. That was mainly caused by the upgrade of the West Coast Main Line. A television producer poured a bucket of ice over a Channel 4 boss whom he accused of getting rid of Countdown presenter Carol Vorderman. Steve Roberts, who's from Urmston, shouted, "This is for sacking Carol," before drenching Helen Warner at an awards ceremony in London. He was later arrested and spent the night in cells. Bosses at ITV Granada, where the freelancer Mr Roberts worked on the Party Politics show and Granada Reports, suspended him, but he later resigned. Now, have you ever fancied yourself as a budding filmmaker? Well, some lucky youngsters from St George's School in Salford have been working with top industry professionals and challenging the issues of gang culture in Greater Manchester.
Action!
Well, I've learnt how to work together, and I've learnt about the process of filming, because I wouldn't have had a clue before. And we've learnt that it's not just the acting that matters, it's about the camera work, so I've learnt a lot.
The project has been running now for 5 years, and it's all about bringing creativity into education and the community. Different way of learning, not everybody's academic. And we find when we educate them to what the jobs that are available behind the camera and what kind of career you can have.
it's gone through numerous stages, really. Louis, the writer, came in at first, and you know, they thought about their own ideas, what they would like to do for a film. Obviously, it's got a knife culture, so they thought that, you know, knife culture was more what they wanted to do. With us having some Polish girls in the drama class and English, they decided to use that and make it quite topical about how people feel about immigration in this country. So they've used that, 2 girl gangs. They've thoroughly enjoyed it. And I think they've learnt a lot about each other as well. They're actually closer friends.
Now, how do you keep fit? Some people go to great lengths by running marathons, and a fitness enthusiast from Oldham is doing 4 of them, all in different ways.
Today I'm doing a rowathon for Christie's, and that is a marathon distance, which is 26 miles, 42 kilometres on the row machine. I'm doing 4 marathons in 4 months in 4 different ways. January, which is today, I'm doing a row on the row machine. I'm doing a bike, maybe double bike in February, and in March I'm doing on the cross-training machine marathon distance, and then in April is my finale, the London Marathon. Christie's, yeah, a good friend of mine who I train with, his mum was diagnosed and she's having treatment there, and I got into the London Marathon through the ballot, and I was wondering who to run for and what to do it for, and then as my friend's mum was very ill, I thought, well, why not? I think they're all going to be, you know, pretty good to train for, and just to keep, you know, general fitness, and just to keep the spirits alive, and hopefully raise a whole lot of money for Christie's.
That's all your news from me for this morning. I'll be back with a roundup at noon. Join me then if you can. In the meantime, have a great morning.
Throughout this morning's show, we've been keeping you updated on how the Highlander of tennis has been getting on down under in the Australian Open. Will Perry, discuss.
I was going to pour a bucket of ice on you, but I'll get through this last one.
Hey!
Andy Murray out of the Australian Open, 3 hours, 12 minutes later in 30-degree heat, but he's lost. You can see, we'll just flash up the score for you there, 6-2. He won the first set. He lost the second 6-1, won the third 6-1, lost the fourth 6-3, and just moments ago lost the deciding fifth 6-4, so 30-degree heat. You can imagine how knackered they must be after that. We'll just talk you through the football we mentioned this morning. Obviously, United over the weekend through to the 5th round of the FA Cup. Came at a cost. 11 players they had out before the game with Spurs. Make that 13 now, because Fabio and Welbeck came off injured in that one. They'll be assessed today to see what the major problems are with them. But United through to the 5th round. We'll have a look at some of the other teams in the draw there. They could face, of course, Derby in another cup competition, or Nottingham Forest. Elsewhere, Sheffield United against Hull, Chelsea are at Watford, West Ham face Middlesbrough, Sunderland or Blackburn against Coventry. The Cup shockers, Swansea, who knocked out the holders Portsmouth, they're at home to Fulham. Liverpool or Everton, who draw 1-1 yesterday, play either Doncaster or Aston Villa. And Cardiff or Arsenal, who were goalless, host either West Brom or Burnley. Those ties will be played on the 14th or the 15th of February. Look at the papers. Yeah, plenty of speculation, and transfer window's still open. Interesting headline on the back page of the MEN, Roque Reid. Yeah. Can they get Santa Cruz? Well, that's who they're going to go after here. There's also reportedly they're after Shay Given as well, £10 million. But yeah, Roque Santa Cruz was, of course, their first target, you know, in January. That's who they said they're going to go after. You know, looks like they're going to go in again with another big bid. But the Daily Mirror as well reporting that Shay Given, £10 million. His representatives are going to have meetings today at Eastlands. Also in the MEM, which is interesting, Summer City's youngsters going out. PSG are apparently after Ned Manua. Celtic and Sheffield United for Ched Evans for just £1 million. Seems a bit of a snatch, that. And Blackburn and Aston Villa in the hunt for Daniel Sturridge. Wigan, let's mention Wigan. They're ready to write a cheque for £6 million for Joe Ledley. Cardiff midfielder, of course, playing the FA Cup against the FA Cup final against Portsmouth in the summer. The rugby, Philippe Saint-André, of course, out of the Heineken Cup, as are Wasps, who lost yesterday, but Philippe's saying he wants to go and win the Guinness Premiership, so there's lots of papers sort of on that story. I've just got enough time. A story I want to pick up on is Ricky Hatton. It's on, it's off, it's on again. You can see that Pacquiao fight is a near cert. His lawyer, Gareth Williams, has said it's 99% certain that it is going to go ahead. The contract apparently is going to arrive for the Filipino for him to sign. So it looks like that's going to go ahead. They've agreed 50-50 terms.
Good. A very exciting prospect. Of course, Manny Pacquiao beat Oscar De La Hoya, the Golden Boy, who was also born under the Year of the Ox. And after the break, we will be continuing our Chinese New Year celebration. See you soon.